everyone, and welcome back to Her Hoop Stats. As always, I'm Chelsea Leite, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Jamie and Tyler. And today we are kicking off our pod with some very exciting news. Our buddies over on Coast to Coast may have been making fun of us last week because we didn't have a name.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Trina and Calvin, you can't make fun of us anymore. So, officially, you heard it here first. This is officially the Press Break podcast.
Yay!
Welcome to the Press Break podcast. Why did I just almost say conference? Press Break pod.
Conference realignment is getting out of hand.
Future, yeah.
Conference realignment is getting out of hand.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, if you don't know, Press Break is a play in basketball, but also we just thought it was like a fun way to describe the fact that, you know, maybe you're pulling up to our podcast, taking a little break from life, wanting to talk hoops. And we all come from very like different sides of basketball. So it's nice to just like take a little bit of a break from the chaos, come talk about hoops with people who like are like-minded and know what they're talking about, hopefully, which is the three of us. And yeah, so that's been in the works for a couple of weeks. We had quite a few. I would say we, but it was mostly me just trying to come up with games that were terrible. I literally just sat one day and I was like, hey, I'm just going to put a timer on for 5 minutes and come up with all of the names I can possibly think of. And they're all bad. But my favorite one, which was maybe a little bit too current and would fade, was
also my fave. Yeah.
H-O-T-T-O hoop. And then my other slogan was, you can take me hot to the ice bath. So I was like, maybe one day we can make something.
It's got to be a segment or something.
Chelsea understood an assignment. I don't know if it was this assignment, but like, there was
maybe like extra credit.
Really great,
extra credit on this one?
No, for sure.
Yeah, a few of my other favorites were 2 Dubs and a Tyler.
And a Tyler,
you got me, Jamie, and Tyler. Not Too Short to podcast because we may be too short to play basketball, but we're not too short to
see. Do you know how tall I am?
Okay, I was about to say Jamie ain't short. Me, listen, I knew my basketball career was over early, but Jamie ain't short.
Jamie is the one out of all of us who's gonna come. And, you know,
if you need a hardship,
that would have been
you need someone for the run, call Jamie, not me.
No, look, when I started getting asked when I was like still in high school by little kids at camps I was working if I could dunk, and I'm like, look, I am 6'1" and I am unathletic, and I worry about like your perception of reality. Frankly, but like I'll take it, I guess. Like it's a flattering question to be asked, even if the answer is like so absurd. But,
I can confidently say no one's ever asked me if I can dunk.
So. I can confidently dunk on the Nerf hoop and the like little Tykes hoop. Those are my hoops.
Yeah, I got a Nerf girl out here. I got 360 windmills for that, but nothing else.
There you go. Exactly. And then my last one that I came up with that just kind of represents the state of basketball / the world right now was Scream and Roll.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
That was a good one. I appreciated like the exact vibe you were going for.
Yeah,
and
we
truly
related. That one. Yeah, it was relatable. Maybe we'll just have one day, if we have like a rant pod, we'll just call it the Scream and Roll.
There we go. So we got to keep all these like saved.
Yeah, for like segments and stuff. But our podcast is called Press Break. So welcome to Press Break. And yeah, we just have some fun stuff to talk about today. Although the first one is a little bit sad, but we're going to spin it. There's been, unfortunately, so many injuries in the W this season. And I feel like it's common / like a lot of them are happening with rookies, with maybe the seasons going from NCAA right into the draft, right into the WNBA season. And a lot of these big rookies, sometimes you get a rookie that goes on a roster and they don't get as many minutes. Maybe they're able to rest a little bit. They aren't playing as impactful basketball right off the bat after just playing, 4 seasons or however many seasons in college. But a lot of these players who we're seeing getting injured were those players who played a full season for their team, led them very far in the tournament, and then came to the W and were immediately thrown in and playing like impactful heavy minutes. You got like Cam, you got a few others. So I'll throw it to Tyler first. Tyler, if you were to pick any player that, left the season early with an injury or came into the season late because of an injury, and them being there for the whole season would have changed their entire team's outlook for the year, who would you pick?
Ooh, I really like the Cam pick, but I think I'm going to go with Satou. Like Satou, what they had last year in Latricia Trammell's first season, that's the closest. It's still a 3-hour drive, but I got to go there a couple times in person last season, and it was really, really dope because it felt like there were so many times in recent years with the Wings where it always felt like there was going to be a major piece moving in some type of way, and it always just kind of felt like even if there wasn't a ton of movement, like it felt like there wasn't necessarily a set kind of core in Dallas. And it felt like going into this season that you build on, the last season where you make it to the playoffs and everything. And it felt like this was going to be the year where they were able to build. Year 2 with LT, you get Satou, you get Enrique back. You obviously have your size down low. You were going to get a high pick in JC Sheldon to incorporate in. And I think they ended up kind of making moves, honestly, that I was a little bit surprised by, like when it came to keeping some of the younger players, frankly. But if you have Satou on this team, like we were just looking at them as potentially being able to make a crazy run for the 8th seed. And that's just based on the fact, really, that Satou came back. That's an all-star player. That is an all WNBA talent that you lost for, the heavy majority of the season. And it just kind of put them in a hole that they couldn't dig out of. But if Satou's there, I would be very interested in knowing what this, I feel pretty confident in thinking that they would be a playoff team if Satou is just healthy for the entirety of the season. They were last year. I think the talent dispersed more evenly across the WNBA this season. But I still think that the Wings would be a top 8 team confidently in this team, especially if they're just building on what they had last year, which I think that they would have done. So I would have loved to see Satou with this team. I've been loving seeing the minutes that she's been able to give since she's came back from the Olympic break and being able to play in the Olympics and then now coming back healthy. So that's probably would be my pick when it comes to changing the dynamics of a team and the results of a team. I think it would be Satou.
Yeah, I agree. Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, so I had Cam in our doc. I think that she would have made things really different. Ultimately, I don't know how much it would have changed as far as results for the Sparks. Early on, took a lot of time to get relative to, I think, the impact she has, a lot of time to figure out that Rikia needed to be a bigger part of their game plan. I'm actually saving like a lot on that for later when we get closer to the end of the season. But they're still getting point guards into the rotation that they're signing from hardship deal, like just some weird stuff there. So ultimately she would have made a big impact, but I don't know about how much it would change the results. My pick is Shakira Austin. She has only played in 12 games. She is averaging just under 20 minutes per game. And in those 20 minutes per game, she still is getting nearly 12 points, nearly 7 rebounds. Like, that is absolutely absurd. And considering that, like, obviously she has not been completely healthy for almost any of that. She was fairly healthy to start the year, and then almost immediately she was getting injured. So first of all, heartbreaking, because she just cannot escape the injury bug. I just so desperately want to see her have a healthy season. But if you look at her per 40 stats on her hoop stats, it is ridiculous.
She's so good.
It is ridiculous. I mean, she's 3rd in total rebounds, 1st in steals, 13th in blocks, 7th in field goals made. Like, it's unreal. And so that's adjusted for 40 minutes. And so when you're someone who plays a little bit less, then it obviously weights towards you. But just when we're talking about the push that Washington has made here late, when we talk about how they've been really up and down, they've had some major inconsistencies over the course of the season, but they have had some terrific flashes. Shakira Austin's definitely my pick. And then a little asterisk, like, side note with that is that's not even addressing also Brittany Sykes only playing
Yep.
15 games for them.
Mhm.
So, like, you have that 1-2 punch of both of those players missing significant time. If you have either of them for the entire season, things look really different. If both of them are even in 75% of your games, we're probably not talking about the 8th seed anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's they're probably in there, and they very well may not be 8th.
Yeah, I agree. I think they might be a candidate. I think it's them and the Sparks. You got to kind of see how the draft shakes out for teams that'll make the biggest jump next season record-wise.
Yeah.
And it really might just be like, they'll have some picks, but a big part of that's just getting healthy. And if they can get that, they're going to make a jump.
Yeah, well, it came out the other day that LA now has the highest chance of getting the number 1 pick in the draft, which at this rate, we're kind of guessing is Paige Beckers. Could also be
if it's LA. If it's LA, the fit feels like Paige.
Yeah, because we got Cam this year and then pair with Paige and Ricky and all that. That's kind of the future. I think my pick, I'll kind of go back to something Jamie was saying. Like, Cam Brink being healthy for the whole season may not have really shook up LA's perspective for the whole season and how they've been if they were able to win a little bit more. I don't think that was the goal for this season. I do think if Cam Brink was healthy the whole season, it would have definitely shaken up this whole rookie
rookie of the year race they could have added another horse to that,
exactly
to the race.
Right before Cam was injured, she was putting up nuts numbers, double doubles, rebounds, points, all of this stuff. And I remember the week before she was injured, I was like, she could challenge Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese for Rookie of the Year if she keeps up this high standard. And I mean, who knows what would have happened between, Caitlin breaking the records and, Angel going off on that rebound stint and all of that. But I do think Cam Brink would have changed the Rookie of the Year race and also really impacted the all-rookie race, because I think the all-rookie team race is also really interesting because this class is so deep. I don't know how you just pick 5 rookies, because then you also think about the fact that Julie Van Loo is a rookie, that Leonie Fibish is a rookie, all of these people who are technically rookies that are going to be capable of making this team. And I think throwing Cam Brink in there would have definitely made it. So who else do you pick? Yeah. So I mean, it probably wouldn't have changed LA's season very much, but I do think she was robbed of a really successful rookie season for herself individually. But I mean, I definitely agree with the fact that LA is poised to make such a big leap next year, depending on, how they're able to fare in the lottery and, how the expansion draft goes. Because you do have to think about the fact that we're getting an expansion draft this off season with Golden State and then next season with Toronto. So just got to throw that in there. Just have to throw that in there.
2 really quick digressions before we move on, and I promise I will actually keep them quick. That all came about, my thoughts came about on Raging of the Basketball Gods because I feel so bad for Angel getting hurt, having to end the season early. Should have set the single season rebounding record. Really hoping for a quick recovery there. Super excited to see her in some of the offseason. She's in Unrivaled, and so that'll be super, super fun. And then second digression, Julie Van Loo, Iowa State legend, never played a game, but she is listed as a Cyclone in ESPN.
I'm glad y'all are getting your bars off.
Because she
signed
her
Iowa
letter
State.
of
We're
intent.
checking the boxes.
She signed her letter of intent to Iowa State, never came over because of the whole mess that still is, but not as much, of getting international players to the U.S., but God bless her.
I'm glad y'all getting your bars off.
Our Canada and our Iowa State rants intermix when we one day talk about Bridget Carleton, and that will happen, viewers. Once the most improved race comes about, we're gonna have a whole Bridget Carleton section. I was
the tag team.
Okay. We're saving it for when there's sufficient time because it's gonna take.
It's just one episode.
Time.
I might not even be on that episode. Y'all might just. I might get kicked off for it.
It's the bonus episode, and it's 3 hours.
3 hours. We actually call her up. She joins.
Hey.
Anyways, so that I definitely agree with that and the rookie race and Julie Van Loo, and just the fact that Angel Reese is maybe not as much as Cam Brink, obviously robbed of a rookie season, but
oh yeah, I mean it's so late in the game at this point. Obviously it's unfortunate and everything, but she got to get her record. She
not robbed of the season, but of finishing an incredible season.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
Rough when you get so close to the end and then you can't finish. that sucks. So definitely feel for her. And like, the basketball gods have been taken this year because it's just rough out there. A lot of people have been talking about like, we need to change the schedule of whatever. And I just don't think that's possible. So like, I feel like we need to figure out a way to like try and avoid injury without, causing the schedule to change. Because at this point, you can't change the schedule. The WNBA season is too long. The NCAA schedule is never going to change. You just got to deal with it somehow. So I do think that all of these franchises coming up with these really great facilities with a lot of great treatment hopefully will help, because then you're taking more care of your body, which then prevents injury. But overall, it sucks. It's one of the unfortunate, inevitable parts of the game is when players get injured, and it really does impact, especially this late in the season, people's teams' hopes in the playoffs. And we just got news like right before we started recording that Asia Wilson is available to play tomorrow against the Indiana Fever. So hopefully that is not too serious of an injury. But unfortunately, Angel Reese is out for the season. Benijah Laney also hurt herself the other day as well. So we're hoping that her recovery is speedy and she can impact the Liberty's playoff hopes, because they're gunning towards the finals, which kind of segues into our next topic here. We're going to talk about a little bit of a playoff outlook. So first, we'll start on one side of the playoff. So let's go to Jamie first this time. The 8 seed. We have 3 teams that are still fighting. At this point, we're recording on Tuesday. So at this point, we have 3 teams that are still fighting for that 8 seed. It's Chicago, Atlanta, and Washington has made a very late push, which we didn't really think would happen, but they are here. So Jamie, 8 seed, those 3 teams, who do you think is coming away with it, with everything now that's concerned? No Angel Reese.
It's really tough, partially because the scenarios are weird, because the 3 that are in the race are all playing each other, some of them twice. So it's very intermixed, and then they're also all playing teams at the top, right? So you've got Chicago's games that are left are Washington, Minnesota, Phoenix, Atlanta, and Connecticut. The Dream have Minnesota, Washington twice, Chicago and New York, and then Washington has Chicago, Atlanta twice, and then New York and Indiana. So it's a weird spot. At this point, I think I am leaning towards my pick from the last time we talked about this still, which is the Dream. Okay. They are sitting at 12-23. Chicago sitting at 13-22. Washington sitting at 11-24. So as you go down, you just need, obviously the one more win for each of them. I think that the Dream, with having Washington twice, there's a really, really good chance that they at least split that. And a decent chance that they could get both of them. I do think that they should take care of Chicago at home, again, assuming that the Dream are continuing to stay healthy, as they have been more so lately. And especially with, Tina Charles playing as well as she has, and then not having Angel in there, just really changes everything. Camilla's going to have an opportunity to do her big one here to finish the season, which is great for all of our agendas, obviously. But I do really like the way that things shake out for the Dream, just having 2 matchups with Washington, having the one with Chicago. And then, frankly, the fact that their last game of the season is New York, it's at New York. I'm not saying I'm picking an upset, but there are some scenarios where there are players for New York that need the rest. And so they have maybe one of the best situations to see New York. Washington also has them in the second to last game, but I do think that Minnesota and technically Connecticut could be making a push at the 1, but there's a really good chance that it's wrapped up by then. So I'm still rolling with the Dream.
Yeah. Good. Tyler?
So here's my thing.
Okay.
Here's my thing.
Gotta adjust the seating.
My brain agrees with you in the sense of you don't have Angel Reese anymore on Chicago. Washington just has that slightly deeper deficit. The Atlanta Dream have more talent on paper right now on the floor than either of these teams. However, they have been really. My trust is wary with the Dream because they keep blowing games. Like they keep, whether it's a lead, where it's late game execution. We just saw Ryan Howard put up nearly 40, and you blow. It was a double-digit lead that they lose, and so I keep seeing things like this, and to me, it shouldn't be happening, just off the strength of the talent on the roster. So in my head, and I'm picking Atlanta, because that is logically the thing that makes sense. Chicago loses. Angel, it's no secret that I think that they should have already been given the ball to Camilla more, so I'm hoping to see that now. I think Izzy has a chance to certainly step into more minutes and produce and everything, and we know that Izzy Harrison is more than capable of doing so. So I wouldn't be shocked just to see them find different ways to maybe replicate some of that production from Angel and be able to just kind of hold steady just for this last little bit and sneak into the playoffs. But on paper, the Atlanta Dream should be in the 8th seed when playoffs are time. But until if they can't finish games, it ain't gonna matter what type of talent you have on the roster on paper because you can't finish games. Yeah. So I'm picking Atlanta because it makes logical sense. But my feelings about it, I'm not happy. I'm not happy about it because it hasn't been pretty. I don't trust them, frankly. But the talent on the floor presumably should get them over the line.
And I will say, if it weren't that it's the second to last game of the season, if it were like the next game on the schedule, I think I would say that the winner of Chicago and Atlanta would be my pick. But by that point, like it's mostly gonna be presumably at least close to result. Yeah. It's hard to say. It very well still could come down to it. But Chicago does have like a decently favorable schedule, and with Kennedy back, they can be solid. It's just there's just been so much inconsistency with them, and so I'm sticking with the experience for the Dream. But you're so right. Like there's a lot of reason not to trust.
Also, the Dream is the one team out of these three with the incentive to not be in the lottery because they don't own their pick.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great point.
And I'm not saying anyone's scheming or nothing. However, I wouldn't be opposed if I was a Chicago fan. I'm just saying. That's and I'll just leave that there.
Exactly. No, I love that in a few weeks, no matter how this, wraps up, we can come back to the clip of Tyler saying like, I don't trust them. And our boy Nathan's going to do some work in the booth to have some like replay going. And we're going to see whether or not Tyler is right.
I'll either celebrate or eat it. I'm cool either way.
Exactly.
I'm cool either way.
Yeah, I'm going to like throw in Washington just
you like fun. Picking the real underdogs of all this.
I love looking underdog. I love being the little devil's advocate. And okay, my pick is going back to me being a homer because hashtag Aaliyah Edwards for life. Girly changed up her hair. We're loving it. So I don't know. I just think everyone was so surprised when Washington was just like made a boost. And I think that also has to do with like Dallas not performing as well and all this stuff. But like, I do think that Washington has, the potential not only to like make it into that 8th seed, but like it would be a great boost going out of the season for them. They've struggled with injury this season. And like we were saying before, if Shakira were healthy and if Brittany Sykes were on this team, they wouldn't be a lottery team. They had aspirations to be like a middle of the pack, higher seeded team. So, I mean, on the one hand, you could miss the playoffs, get the pick, it's a strong class coming next year. Or you could try to make the push, get some playoff experience for the team, end the season on a high note. I just like picking the team that nobody's talked about, just, be different.
I mean, they're the one with the most momentum right now. Frankly.
Exactly.
Like, when it comes to these teams, like whether it's losing Angel or losing games that you shouldn't have lost, the other two teams don't have that. And Washington is the one that's been on the best role recently.
As out of 5 year last 7, that's
absolutely.
That's a lot.
Especially from where they were. That's a heck of a run.
Yeah, seriously. They lost their first 13, 12, something like that.
It wasn't that. Hey, I don't think it was that bad, Chelsea. It was 7, right?
No, it was 12.
It was the record.
Was it 12?
Yeah, I think it was 12. We gotta search. I feel like
Hold on.
Jamie's typing. Nathan, it was 12. Nathan told us right now it was 12.
Yeah.
In the chat.
Goodness
It was a record.
gracious.
Thank you, Nathan. Mic drop on that one.
That's wicked. Ew.
So now that I've won something and I feel good about myself.
There you go.
No. We're gonna flip it to the other side now. I know it's a little too early to be thinking about the WNBA finals, but
Never too early.
Never too early. I think if we would have been having this conversation in May, our choices would be a lot different than what they're about to be, because this season has definitely shaped up differently than maybe the beginning of season power rankings thought. So I'm curious what two teams, based on what the seeds are at now, because it could still change, there's still a week and a half, who you think is going to be the finals matchup in the W. So the top 4 seeds right now in order are New York, Minnesota, Connecticut, and Vegas is in 4th right now. Now, Vegas and Seattle are still kind of flip-flopping, but regardless, that seems like it's going to be the matchup. So keep that in mind. So on the sides of the table, you have to think about like 1 and 4, 2 and whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure both of you know very well how to think through that. So
don't give me too much credit.
So Tyler, who do you think we're going to see in the WNBA finals, just based on the whole season, how things are going right now for the teams, the momentum, etc.?
Man. Okay, I'll say this. I think on one side, I think the Minnesota Lynx are going to be there. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have found a level of consistency and things that work and a foundation. I think that's what so many teams lack right now, and where they lose consistency is they don't have a foundational, when nothing else is working, this is what we do. And I think the Minnesota Lynx had the best of that in Nafisa Collier. And just what they just feel like they have the best foundation. And when I think about playoffs, I think about defense and I think about foundations, and the Lynx got them both. So I'm cool with that. From there, it gets a little shaky for me. Like, obviously the Liberty they're the number 1 seed for a reason. But since since coming back from injury, Sabrina has been struggling a little bit, and especially when you're talking about a team that, and this has always kind of been my worry with the Liberty, is that they don't have necessarily that foundation. I feel like at times, where sometimes I feel like you got Brianna Stewart on your team. Let Stewie be Stewie, or you got MVPs. You got JJ. Like, you could just feed the ball down to JJ at times and just simplify it. And I don't feel like they always simplify it, and that makes me nervous in a playoff setting. I think, and I'm worried about Asia too. Like, this is the first game she's been since 2019, but like, the production is there, but the defense at times for the Aces scares me. Like, the Lynx, frankly, are the only team right now that I trust. Let me put it like that.
Yeah.
So
we're talking about Tyler's trust issues today.
No, listen, man. They're gonna have to go to therapy after this. Like, I trust the Lynx, and to a point, you win back-to-back championships, you got something right. So I'm gonna say tentatively the Lynx and the Aces, because Asia Wilson feels undeniable right now.
Yeah.
To a point, and when I feel like I just kind of have a sense that when playoffs, there could be a shift there, where and because there's just a sense of urgency that maybe when you're on year 3 of a three-peat, that the regular season doesn't really give you. Yeah. And so I'll roll with the Lynx and Aces, but I don't feel amazing about it. I don't think. Yeah. But I think that's how the playoffs. Is that
I think that's. Yeah.
Is that it? Okay. I guess that I was a journalism major, not math.
Yeah. Right. Not a math major.
No, there's a reason.
So the way it would work is that if it was the top seeds, if they got rid of all of the bottom seeds, it would be New York, Vegas in a semifinal.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Okay. I was thinking. Yeah. I'm here. I'm locked in.
You got it. Here. I saw it. Those of you watching on video, you may have seen Jamie put her glasses on. I feel like that means like serious mode.
I don't.
So I'm curious what you're thinking right now, Jamie.
Yeah, I was partially getting ready to be Tyler's therapist for his trust issues, but if you looked at, I realized, like, as I was looking at my other tabs, as you were talking about like the different scenarios and stuff, that I forget that I'm on camera, and my husband makes fun of me because I cannot like regulate my facial expressions to save my life. And so I guarantee it looked like I was like doing a bit of how focused I was, because I know I was screwing up my whole face, and that's just real.
Not a bit. Gotcha.
I wish it was a bit. So yeah, what I was doing was trying to figure out like how much I think that any of the seeds would change and how much that would impact things. Mm-hmm. And I know before I was saying that like things could be up in the air. So I don't think very much is up in the air. Technically, Minnesota and Connecticut can swap. They are only 1 game separated, but I think that Minnesota's schedule's more favorable. And then you're looking at the Aces in Seattle. That doesn't matter ultimately, except for, home court advantage.
It matters for them, but not for us.
Which does. Yeah. But for those matchups. And so then beyond that.
No matter what, I think Vegas is coming out of that series. So yeah.
And so that's actually my thing is if Vegas comes out of that series. I do think that with it being a shorter series, it is more favorable to Vegas, even with, they're running into the same issues we've seen previously with the lack of depth. We mentioned last week they signed Queen Egbo, didn't really see any time.
Not much yet,
Still not seeing Kirsten get out there, still seeing significantly reduced minutes from Kate Martin, Meg Gustafson, kind of up and down depending on matchups, depending on foul, stuff like that. And then with Asia being out, I do have pretty full confidence that she'll be okay. That it was super precautionary. Almost like drilling home like how important it is for her to be healthy, maybe to her. Because Becky said, I didn't give her a choice. Yeah. So I do think that they'll be healthy.
Yeah.
But man, I think that Seattle has really started
Skylar's
to figure some things out. Skylar's looked good. Gabby Williams, we talked about it. She's always a threat, and she's gotten it figured out. She brings such a different dimension. The passing, the ball movement, that changes things so much.
Imagine the Aces lost in the first round. I'm not like, and like it's definitely possible. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, that is absolute 100%. That is a very real possibility. But that would be crazy.
Sure. And for anybody watching or listening who hasn't yet watched the WNBA playoffs, I will say that it's a little bit weirder than the NBA, where the first, I think, 2 rounds are best of 3 series, and then the finals is best of 5. So it kind of changes the dynamic of things when you're doing a best of 3 series as opposed to a best of 7 series or a best of 5 series. So keep that in mind when you're talking. You only have to win 2 games.
So that's what's so difficult. I do still think that Vegas wins, but I'm not certain of it. I'm very far from certain of it.
I do also it goes to 3.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I do think that, like Tyler, and this hurts me to even say because, jinxes and all that, but I do feel like I trust Minnesota pretty well. And so I feel pretty good about them coming out, especially if Phoenix is their first matchup. I like that a lot. And then Connecticut just, I don't know. They've been up and down. I don't know. They haven't been able to put together like a significant enough streak of games of doing the same things right, of doing different things right, even against different opponents, to make me think that Minnesota doesn't get that one. And that may be changed by their last matchup. Connecticut is 2-0 on the season in the series. But I think that Minnesota has figured out a lot, especially with Myisha Hines-Allen over there. Yeah. So right now, I think that I would agree with you, Tyler, on Minnesota and the Aces. But if I were to have like a third of the next team that I think is the most likely, for better or worse, I think I would put Seattle, because New York.
No love for New York.
I don't see it with the injury. With everything you pointed out.
It scares me.
With the injuries they've had with Sabrina, in reduced efficiency here since she was out. I don't know. And they could go out and they could just blow everyone away. And that's certainly a danger. But I just think that they've put together almost too solid of a regular season. There's been so many times where it looks like something's going to come back and bite them, where it looks like something's going to fall apart and they just pull it out. I don't think that fortune can continue all the way to the finals.
Wow. Always making me say something different, you two. Sheesh. I mean, I agree on the one hand that Minnesota looks so good. and like let's bring the WNBA trophy to Chatham, Ontario. Let's go.
Yes.
But I'm gonna say Liberty on the other side. Like you think about the fact that the Liberty are 3-0 against the Aces in the regular season. I get what you're saying about like the recency and maybe putting together too good of a regular season. But I think something that the Liberty have proven is that in these clutch situations where they do have to pick up and win a game at the end of, the regulation, that they do it. Like, I think their stat is like 11-2 in clutch game situations, which is like in the last 5 minutes where the ball or where the score is between like 5 points. And the reason I know this is because I was writing a piece about it a couple weeks ago, and I was looking at all these very like deep stats. And yeah, like the Liberty have that insane stat when you talk about them winning games in the last 5 minutes, and in playoff situations where you're in those final rounds and the seeding is really tight and the matchups are tight, like you have to be able to pull out games in the last few minutes. And so I think New York has proved that they can do that. And then you think about, everything changes in the playoffs. Like what may be happening literally like 5 days before in the regular season could completely change in the playoffs just because the mindset changes. So as much as they're going through maybe a little bit of like a dip right now, I think that every team does that throughout the season. Maybe it's a little late to be doing that, and that hinders them. But at the same time, going back to something Tyler said a few minutes ago with them going back to basics, I think back to their series against Connecticut last season where JJ absolutely went off. And I think that was because they went back to basics and they were just feeding JJ in the post. And maybe that's a strategy again.
So, a concept. I just want to see that. If you just did that, listen, I give the trophy myself. That's all I want to see. That's all I want to see.
Feed JJ.
Yes.
So I do think that people end up like this beauty of playoff basketball is that it ends up being like very fundamental because at the end of the day, everybody's bringing their best. You have to play great defense. You have to be able to show up to these big moments. So I do think the Liberty have that in their pocket. So I'm going to say Liberty, Minnesota, just because I want to. So
valid. That's a good enough reason for me.
Yeah. And like, just based on the fact that if we get a Liberty Aces semifinal, which seems kind of wild, but if you get that semifinal, like the Liberty have won every matchup so far, like based on this season. So I do think, obviously everybody's going to be playing their best, but at the same time, if Sabrina can cook, if Brianna Stewart can cook, if JJ can cook, I don't think that the Aces defense is strong enough currently to be able to play.
Valid. Yeah.
So yeah, that's my thing.
If Stewie's, that's enough right there, frankly.
Yeah, Stewie just got Stewie. And she's in her Brianna Stewart year, aka she's 30 and her number is 30. There you go. So, she just got that extra power now.
There we go.
Yeah, so I mean it's a little early to be talking about the finals, but the playoffs start literally in like 2 weeks, which is so wild and so exciting. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that. But before we head out today, I want to play a fun game with both of you. So I'm calling it Splash or Crash. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to say a statement. Some of them are a little more out there. Some of them, might be easy. But you're going to say splash if you agree and crash if you disagree.
Okay.
You get it? Okay.
I'm ready.
So our first statement is, the WNBA should adopt the hockey rule of pulling a player off the court to serve a 2-minute penalty when they get a flagrant foul.
Crash.
Immediate crash.
Crash.
Boo.
Crash.
Don't like it?
I already got confused.
You guys so they're so biased. Like if officiating were more consistent, like I mean it's obviously this is all in good fun. Like I don't know that that's a real consideration anyone's gonna be making, but like until those obvious biases that I'm not gonna even get into because it takes a lot more time, it deserves a lot more time, are addressed.
Yeah. Crash. All right. On to the next one. Every WNBA playoff series from first round to the final should be best of 7.
Splash. Absolutely.
More hoops. Tyler?
I mean, I feel like the infrastructure is like increasingly getting like, because that was my word. Like that was my hesitancy. Because like more hoops.
Mine's in a perfect world.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
It
come on,
could not
Splash.
happen for a long
Yeah.
time.
So,
Yeah.
so in a perfect world, Splash, more playoff. Yeah, sign me up. More playoffs. Yeah, I'm cool.
Yeah, more
Splash.
hoops. Yeah. All right, on to the next one. Expansion teams coming into the league should be thrown into the lottery and potentially be able to get the number 1 pick.
Splash. Let's get chaotic.
Yes,
Let's get chaotic.
Nice.
Let's get
I
chaotic.
expected you guys to be maybe a little bit hesitant about that one because the idea now is
That's a
that
big splash for me.
Splash.
nice. Jamie has the sign for any of you listening
I
on audio.
I also want like more punishment for teams that maybe perhaps are like, you know, looking like maybe they have been tanking.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm not
Just,
gonna
like,
lie.
throw-
I'm pro tanking because, like, listen, get it. Listen.
I
If it's bad, it's bad. We're
Yeah.
gonna get something out of this, okay?
Exactly.
So I can get behind tanking, but I do think, frankly, I would find it very funny if someone tanked and then.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so
And
that's
then,
like I'm honestly just here for the
Amen.
chaos of it. So
Yeah.
like splash for me.
Like, you know, LA tanks so hard and then Golden State just comes in and gets paid
said
back.
Oh, they'd be sick. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
I'm with it.
Then the
Splash.
next, I just, you know, juju to Toronto, but that's the
well.
year after. Anyway, okay,
Well.
next one. So, next statement. Players, especially young players, need to play overseas for experience.
Crash.
Jamie?
Splash right now. Yeah. I
Ooh.
don't think that like the non-traditional leagues domestically can give you enough yet. It hasn't been
Interesting.
proven yet.
I definitely agree with that for players who are like kind of on the cusp and haven't like really broken.
That's
in
the
yet.
thing. That's
Yeah.
the thing because we
It's
talked about
nuanced.
earlier about getting the rest, and so
Yeah.
I worry about if you go.
There's places with short seasons.
This
Yeah.
is true. This is true. So like I think it's very. I don't think it's a universal yes.
Mhm.
In the sense of like
I think the exceptions are few and far between.
Yeah.
that's fair. That's fair. And now we'll have to see how these other leagues develop. But
Yeah.
you know what? Okay, I'm with. I can get with it. Like with certain players, like if you're on the back end of the 144, and I can see it. Yeah, splash.
Yeah, and it has helped. Like,
certainly.
players,
100%.
so there is like the what's the word? The evidence there
Yes.
to do that. All right, the very last one. So, splash or crash. When all is said and done, at the end of her career, A'ja Wilson will be the best WNBA player of all time.
Splash.
Yeah.
Splash, yeah.
I don't think it's gonna take till
She's
the end
only-
of her career.
She's only getting
Ooh.
better.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can make an argument for Mount Rushmore now, and that's
Yeah.
before
Yes.
that's before this MVP and before what could potentially happen in the playoffs.
Yep.
I mean, we're just seeing the greatest season of all time now. She has the resume to back
she
it up.
could Maya Moore it and still have like one of the best
Yeah.
arguments. And if she
Yeah.
doesn't, if she plays for even
Imagine
close
Asia's
to
resume when she's
capability.
36.
Yeah, like that's not. She's my age, so she's only 28 right now. Like,
Yeah.
miss, what?
I can see it.
I'm like,
I can get behind it.
I can see
And
her
women
getting better
physically
next
like
year.
enter their prime about that time. Like,
Yeah,
I can see it. I can get
yeah,
behind it.
see it.
Crazy.
Splash.
Splash.
Glad we're all in agreement. Thank you all for playing my fun little game. And thank you all for listening to Press Break Podcast. We are Jamie, Chelsea, and Tyler, and we will see you next Wednesday for our last podcast of the WNBA regular season. Don't worry, we're going to be potting all through the college season too, so you're not getting rid of us. But the WNBA season is starting to creep there, so we're going to have a big final regular season party next week. Check us out on YouTube and check out the rest of the Her Hoop Stats podcast network. There's podcasts mostly every day of the week coming up, so make sure to check out our friends on other podcasts as well and read Her Hoop Stats newsletter online as well. And we will see you next week.